The thing is, I did not think one drunk joke could end a marriage. Two plastic cups, one crowded living room, and of course everyone laughed before they understood what I had said. I asked who wanted to replace my husband that night because his face was annoying me. Tomasz smiled like I had finally made something easy for him. By morning, nobody was laughing with me anymore. My name is Amara Ellis. I was 34, and I managed operations at a pediatric clinic where panic had to wait its turn. The thing is, I was good at making messy rooms behave, and of course I thought that meant I knew when a life was still under control. 2 supply bins, 1 patient flow board, and no honest reason for my hands to shake over missing gauze. The storage room smelled like rubbing alcohol and cardboard. I was counting spare inhaler masks when Leah Park came in with coffee and leaned against the shelves like she had brought weather with her. She said I ran the clinic like a war room. I told her someone had to, because doctors loved saving children and forgetting where they put consent forms. Leah laughed. Then my phone buzzed. Tomasz had texted that he changed my car wipers because the forecast showed rain. He also said he left the receipt in the glove box in case I wanted the warranty card. A year before, that message would have warmed me. That afternoon, I stared at it like it was one more task assigned to my name. Leah asked if the emergency husband had struck again. I told her not to call him that. My mouth smiled before the warning did any work. That was one of my bad habits then. My face joined jokes before my loyalty caught up. Tomasz was not careless. That would have made this cleaner. He remembered the quiet things. When I had a bad audit at the clinic, he waited outside after midnight with soup because I had skipped dinner. He kept dry socks in the car because I once came out crying after stepping into street slush. On Sundays, we walked through neighborhoods we could not afford and picked houses by porch lights. That was real. But real things can start sounding small when nobody sees them. That night, at home, Tomasz stood by the hallway console with a small silver bottle opener in his hand. Marco always forgot one at parties, so Tomasz had bought an extra before Marco's birthday weekend. He asked softly if something had changed between us lately. What he meant was that he missed me. What I heard was that he wanted a report. I told him work had been heavy. Of course I said that. Work was the cleanest place to hide. He nodded and put the bottle opener beside our keys. Later, Leah messaged that Marco's party might be exactly what I needed to remember I was still fun. I read it twice before turning my phone down. The clinic break room always smelled like burnt coffee and baby wipes, which made every adult problem feel slightly ridiculous. The thing is, ridiculous problems are still problems when you carry them home. 2 paper cups, 1 phone screen, and of course Leah had already decided the week needed a little damage. She slid into the chair across from me and showed me photos from a wine bar near Marco's place. In one picture, Marco was holding a neon drink and making a face. Behind him stood Rafael Cruz, half turned toward the camera, smiling like he knew the room had been waiting for him to arrive. Leah said he was coming Saturday. She said Rafael made boring rooms remember they had music. I said that sounded exhausting. She said exhausting was better than being married to weatherproofing. I told her Tomasz was not weatherproofing. Then my phone buzzed again, and the argument died because the message was from Rafael. He had commented on a group photo from last year's clinic fundraiser, one Marco must have reposted. Rafael wrote that I looked like I belonged at the center of every room. The line was not intimate. Not exactly. It had clean shoes. It could walk through any doorway and deny it had been invited. I liked the comment. Leah watched my thumb move and smiled into her coffee. She asked if the husband knew other men still had eyes. I said Tomasz had eyes. She asked if he used them. That should have bothered me more than it did. At home that evening, Tomasz was in the hallway sorting mail into 2 stacks, bills and everything else. His sleeves were rolled up. The rain had started, and I could see the water sliding down the window behind him in thin, crooked lines. He asked if I wanted dinner warmed. I said I had eaten at work, which was not a lie if 2 crackers counted as dinner. He looked at my face for a second too long. Tomasz never accused first. He collected weather before naming rain. 2 days passed. 3 small messages came from Raphael about Marco's party playlist. Nothing in them could be held up in court of ordinary marriage and called proof. One said Marco hated good music. One said Leah had terrible taste. One said he hoped I brought trouble because every party needed a reason to become worth retelling. I did not show Tomasz. That was the first active choice. Not the party. Not the drink. That small private pocket I made for a man who did not owe me anything. On Thursday, Leah pulled me and 2 nurses from administration to the wine bar after work. Nina Cole joined us later because she knew Marco and liked pretending our clinic gossip was not gossip if it happened outside the clinic. The bar smelled like lime and wet coats. Someone asked whether Tomasz was coming Saturday. I said Tomasz came to everything with the energy of a man checking fire exits. People laughed. Leah laughed loudest. One of the nurses covered her mouth. Nina did not laugh right away. She looked down at her glass and turned the stem between 2 fingers. I saw that look. Of course I saw it. I chose to call it Nina being sensitive because that let me stay funny. Later that night, Tomasz saw Raphael's name light up while I changed clothes. He did not pick up the phone. He did not ask for it. He only looked from the screen to the laundry basket, then folded one of my clinic cardigans and placed it on the chair. The thing is, silence can feel like judgment, even when nobody has spoken. He found me in the hallway after I brushed my teeth. He said Nina had seemed strange when he passed her outside the bakery that morning. He said she mentioned the party and then stopped talking when his name came up. Then he asked why I had told Leah that being married to him felt like living beside a safety manual. Specific. Factual. One named thing. That was how Tomasz came to pain. He did not bring the whole wound. He brought one clean edge and waited for me to touch it. I told him everyone joked about marriage. I said he made rooms heavy by treating every sentence like it needed an inspection. He said he was not asking me to be silent. He was asking not to be made into the boring man before he even arrived. What he meant was simple. What I heard was that he wanted to edit me until I fit beside him again. I said if he did not want people to call him careful, maybe he should stop making every feeling arrive with a backup plan. His face changed by almost nothing. 1 inch at the mouth. 1 small breath through his nose. Then he asked whether Raphael had been messaging me privately. I said everyone was messaging about the party. He said everyone did not make me turn my phone over. The phone lay on the console between us. Our keys were beside it, and the silver bottle opener sat near the blue ceramic bowl. I picked up my phone and put it in my pocket because touching it made me feel like I still owned the room. Tomasz did not follow me into the bedroom. That was the consequence. Small, like his consequences always were. He slept with his back to me, not touching, not angry enough to let me accuse him properly. The next morning, Leah asked if he had sulked. I said he had done his quiet, wounded thing. Leah reacted with a laughing face. Nina did not react at all. By Saturday afternoon, the line about the safety manual had already travelled farther than I meant for it to go. Marco's apartment smelled like pizza, spilled cider, and warm electronics from too many people charging phones near one outlet. The thing is, crowded rooms forgive almost anything if the lighting is low and people are holding cups. 2 plastic cups, 1 crowded living room. And of course, I believed a joke could stay a joke if I said it with the right smile. Tomasz and I arrived together. He carried the cider because Marco had warned us the elevator might stick. I wore a black top Leah had once said made me look like trouble with good posture. Tomasz wore the green sweater I had bought him after saying it made him look less like a city engineer and more like someone who might know a song. He did look good. That is the part I hated admitting even then. He looked steady and clean and kind. Then Marco shouted for a bottle opener. Tomasz lifted the small silver one from his pocket before anyone else moved. People cheered because people cheer for useful things when a bottle is waiting. He smiled, not proud, only pleased that the problem had been solved before it became a mess. Useful. There was that word again. sitting in the room before me. Leah hugged me near the kitchen and asked if the husband had checked the exits yet. I told her he was opening bottles, which proved my point. Raphael heard that from the hallway and laughed as he came in with his jacket over one shoulder. He kissed Marco's cheek, hugged Leah, and greeted me like we had a private joke waiting even though we did not. He said I looked like the party had been planned around me. He said it where Tomasz could hear, though he did not look at Tomasz when he said it. I laughed too quickly. Nina stood near the window with Celeste, her sister. Celeste had sharp eyes and the kind of still face that made drunk people less funny. Marco moved between rooms, happy and tense, trying to keep every corner alive. The first hour was harmless if you did not count the things nobody named. Raphael asked about the clinic and listened like patient floorboards were fascinating. Tomasz asked Marco whether the loose speaker cable had always sparked like that. Leah told Raphael that Amara fixed people before they knew they were broken. Raphael said some people did not need fixing, only a better audience. That sentence went under my skin. Tomasz was by the hallway console then, kneeling to move the speaker cable away from a puddle of melted ice someone had tracked from the kitchen. He did not ask for attention. He did not tell Marco the setup was unsafe. He just fixed it. I watched him become part of the apartment's working parts. A speaker cable. A bottle opener. A husband on one knee in the hallway making sure other people had music. Leah leaned near my ear and said Tomasz should loosen up before he became part of the furniture. I told her to stop. Of course I was smiling. Raphael said furniture could be replaced if the room needed a new mood. Someone laughed. Maybe Leah. Maybe me first. I do not trust that part. I had too much cider by then. Not enough to forget. Enough to let myself sound brave. My cheeks were warm. The living room had turned toward Raphael because he was telling a story about a club owner who paid him in cash and then forgot his own event date. He had the room in his hand. I wanted the room too. Someone asked where Tomasz had gone. I looked toward the hallway. He was still near the console, standing now, one hand on the speaker, the small silver bottle opener in his other hand. The light above him was too bright. It made him look plain, tired, almost responsible enough to be blamed. The line formed before I decided whether to speak. I raised my cup and asked the room who wanted to replace my husband tonight because his dumb face was annoying me. For 1 second, the sentence did not land. Cruel lines sometimes need a place to sit before people understand what they have heard. Then someone laughed. Leah laughed first, sharp and reflexive. Marco made a sound that tried to become a laugh and stopped halfway. Raphael lifted his hand halfway, like he was auditioning for the joke, and a few people turned toward him because his body had answered before his mouth did. The room looked at Tomasz. He looked at me first. Not at Raphael. Not at Leah. At me. Then he looked at the bottle opener in his hand. I expected hurt. I expected the quiet face, the one that made me feel accused. I expected him to ask if we could talk in the hallway and make the room responsible for his sadness. Instead, he smiled. It was small and clean. No teeth. No warmth. A smile you give when a hard calculation finally becomes simple. He placed the bottle opener on the console table. The metal touched wood with one soft click that I heard under the music, under Leah's dying laugh, under Raphael shifting his weight beside me. Then he told Marco, indirectly and calmly, that he was going to head out. He told me to enjoy the rest of the night. Quiet debrief. No raised voice. The quiet was the point. I said he was being dramatic. I said it lightly, because lightness had carried me this far and I did not know how to put it down. He did not answer. Celeste said my name once, not loud, just enough to make me feel caught. Nina had her phone low in her hand. I saw the screen glow. She lowered it too late for me not to see. Later, that would matter. Then, I told myself she had probably been filming Marco's party like everyone else. Tomasz put on his coat. Marco followed him to the door and asked something I could not hear. Tomasz shook his head once, not angry. Not begging. Finished with the conversation before I understood what had been decided. The door closed behind him. The room did not recover all at once. Raphael lowered his half-raised hand. Leah took a drink and looked at the floor. Someone near the sofa asked if we were still doing cake. Marco said yes too quickly. I kept smiling because stopping would have admitted I heard myself. The bottle opener stayed on the hallway console, silver under the lamp. I told myself he had left it because he forgot. That was easier than knowing he no longer needed to bring it home. The next morning, my mouth tasted like cider and old sugar. The thing is, hangovers make every mistake look temporary at first. 2 unread messages, 1 empty side of the bed, and of course I told myself Tomasz would come back into the room once he had finished proving his point. He was not in bed. His pillow was flat and cold. In the bathroom, his toothbrush was still there, which made me feel safer than I deserved. My phone had 23 notifications. Marco had posted 1 photo from the party, carefully chosen, no hallway, no raised cup. Leah had written that the night got intense, then added nothing else. Celeste had left the group chat at 8:12 in the morning. Nina had not written anything. I found Tomasz in the kitchen. He was washing glasses Marco must have sent back with my bag. The sink smelled like dish soap and stale cider. The small silver bottle opener sat on a folded towel beside him. I stood in the doorway and watched him wash the glass I had raised when I made the joke. He did not scrub hard. That would have made it easier. He rinsed it, turned it once under the water, checked the rim, and set it on the rack. The movement was ordinary. That was what opened the door. For a few seconds, I saw the room from somewhere outside myself. Tomasz fixing the music. Tomasz opening bottles. Tomasz standing under that hallway light while I offered his place to anyone laughing enough to pretend they did not understand. He was not trying to make me look cruel. He had been trying to remain a person in a room where I made him a role. The water kept running. My hand moved to the counter. I almost said his name the right way. Then he picked up another glass and I saw his calm face in the kitchen window. The door closed inside me. I told myself he was cleaning because he wanted to look like the mature victim. Of course he was. Tomasz knew how to make ordinary actions accuse better than shouting ever could. He turned off the water and asked if I remembered what I said. I told him I remembered enough. I said it was a drunk joke. I said Raphael had been joking too. I said everyone knew I did not mean it like that. Tomasz dried his hands on a towel. He said it was not one joke. He said it was the safety manual line, the fire exit jokes. The way I turned his care into proof that he bored me, the messages I hid because I wanted someone else to see me without asking careful questions, naming the pattern, the accumulation, not one incident. That was worse than the single sentence. One sentence can be defended. A pattern builds a house around you. I told him he had stopped making me feel desired and only made me feel managed. He did not deny it. That silence landed harder than an argument. He said he knew he had failed at saying desire in a way I could hear. He said he had loved me through rides, bills, soup, wipers, and the small repairs I never wanted to count because counting them made him look better than my anger allowed. What he meant was that he was not innocent, but he was wounded. What I heard was that he wanted credit. I said being useful was not the same as being a husband. The sentence came out clean enough to look true. It was partly true. That made it more dangerous. He looked at the bottle opener on the towel. He picked it up and dried it carefully, even though it was already dry. Then he opened the drawer beside the sink and placed it inside, not beside our keys where it usually lived. One small action. One drawer closing. I asked if he was going to make a ceremony out of every object now. He said nothing. That silence let me win the room for about 5 seconds and lose something larger behind it. By afternoon, my sister Celeste called. She was not really my sister, not by blood, but Nina's sister had been close enough to our group that she spoke to me like family when she was angry. She said the joke had been ugly. She said she had watched Tomasz's face and did not know how I was making this about his reaction. I told her she had always liked wounded men. She said that was not an answer. When she ended the call, she did not say she loved me. She always said that after hard conversations, even when it sounded awkward. This time she only said she had to go. A few hours later, Marco dropped off my jacket in a paper bag. He stood in the hallway and did not step inside. He asked if Tomasz was okay. Not if we were okay. If Tomasz was okay. The thing is, people reveal their votes in small grammar. I told Marco we were handling it. He looked past me toward the kitchen, where Tomasz was sitting at the table with his phone face down. Marco said indirectly that Nina had been worried. I asked if Nina had appointed herself marriage police. Marco looked tired then. He said nobody needed an appointment when the whole room had seen it. After he left, Tomasz stayed at the table. He looked sad in a plain way. No performance, no sharpness. His shoulders were rounded, and his wedding ring looked loose on his finger because he kept turning it without looking down. For 1 second, I could have sat across from him. Instead, I started controlling the damage. I told him I was sorry if the joke embarrassed him. That was my micro-shift. A neat partial apology. Soft enough to pass inspection. Empty enough to protect the center. He asked if I was sorry I said it, or sorry people heard it. I told him he always needed language exact enough to punish me. That ended the apology. That night, he slept in the spare room. Before closing the door, he took his phone charger from our bedroom, then paused by the hallway console. His keys were in the blue ceramic bowl. He removed the apartment key from the ring and set the rest back. I told myself he was being dramatic. The reader would have known better. I did not let myself. 4 days after the party, the apartment had become too clean. The thing is, silence makes you notice surfaces. 2 cups in the cabinet instead of 4, 1 charger missing from the bedroom, and of course I decided Tomasz was trying to punish me by becoming impossible to reach. He still went to work. He still answered necessary questions. He still paid the electricity bill because the notice came on Thursday, and he had always hated late fees. But he had stopped entering rooms like my husband. He entered like someone confirming the exits. That was when I crossed the next line. Not drunk. Not surprised. Deliberate. I posted a story from the clinic parking garage after work. It was just a grey sky above my windshield, but the words did the real work. I wrote that some women got tired of begging safe men to act alive. I did not name Tomasz. I did not need to. The people who knew us had enough pieces. Leah saw it first. No comment. Just a view. Celeste unfollowed me within an hour. Marco did not answer when I asked if everyone was being weird. Nina did not answer at all. Raphael sent one private message saying people took drunk jokes too seriously, then added that I had always deserved better energy around me. Better energy. That phrase fed the part of me still hungry enough to eat crumbs and call them dinner. When Tomasz came home, he had a folder under his arm. Plain black. Nothing official on the outside. He placed it on the dining table but did not open it. That was worse than if he had waved it around. He took off his coat, hung it properly, and asked if the post was my final version of what happened. Final and clean. One real offer hiding inside one real question. I said my final version was that he had spent years making me feel invisible, then acted wounded when I said it badly in public. He stood beside the table with one hand on the chair. I told him he stopped making me feel desired and only made me feel managed. There it was. The true thing. The thing he could not refute. He looked down. Not beaten. Not guilty enough to save me. Just honest. He said he knew. He said he had confused making my life easier with making himself present inside it. He said he thought remembering what I needed would show me I was loved, because words had never been safe for him growing up. He said he saw now that he had left too much of the marriage in the hands of errands. For a second, that almost sounded like the door I had been demanding for months. Then he asked me to say privately, without Leah, without Raphael, without a room waiting to laugh, whether I wanted someone else to replace him. The apartment seemed smaller around that sentence. He was giving me the private door again. No witnesses, no group chat, no performance to win. I could have said no. I could have said I wanted to be wanted loudly, and I had used the wrong room to say it. I could have said Raphael was not the point, because Raphael was not the point. Not really. Instead, I heard a trap. I told Tomasz the real problem was that he finally had a scene where he could look like the good husband. I said he loved this, the quiet suffering, the careful face, the folder on the table like a prop in a play he had written. His hand moved away from the chair. He did not open the folder. He only said he would handle things properly. No legal word. No threat. The tone did the work. The thing is, I wanted him to shout then. A shout would have made him ugly. A shout would have given me something to send Leah. A shout would have let me tell Raphael that safe men were never safe once they lost control. But Tomasz only became logistical. He asked if I needed the car Saturday. He asked if I would be home Sunday afternoon. He asked whether the clinic schedule next week still had late shifts. Each question sounded ordinary until I heard how he was removing emotion from every shared space. I reached for my phone. I texted Leah 3 times. First, I asked if she had seen Tomasz being strange. Then I asked if she thought my post was too much. Then I sent a smaller message asking if she was awake. She answered with one grey thumbs-up reaction. That was all. A week earlier, she would have sent 6 messages and a joke sharp enough to cut the evening open. Now there was one grey thumb where a person used to be. I checked Raphael's page. One photo from Marco's party had been removed. It had shown him beside me near the hallway, his hand close to my waist but not touching enough to count. I knew the photo because I had watched it twice, liking the way I looked almost chosen. Now it was gone. When I asked him about it, he said he was cleaning up old posts because people were dramatic. He added that he did not want to get dragged into a married couple's situation. The words sat on my phone like someone had closed a gate from the other side. I told myself Raphael was being smart. Of course I did. Smart was easier than cowardly. Timing was easier than rejection. Tomasz came out of the spare room with his laptop bag. He had changed shirts. His wedding ring was still on. That made me angry, because it looked like proof that nothing final had happened. I asked why he was still wearing it if he was going to act like a stranger. He looked at the ring, then at me. He said the ring had never been the part he found hard to honor. That sentence had no handle. I could not grab it without cutting myself. So I laughed. A small laugh. Mean because it needed to be. I said he should write that down in his folder. He nodded once as if I had confirmed something he had already written without needing paper. Later that evening, I posted nothing. I tried to call Leah once more and hung up before voicemail. I opened Raphael's chat and watched his status go active, then disappear, then active again. No message came. Tomasz put his keys in the hallway bowl before leaving for a walk. I heard the soft clink from the bedroom. When I came out, the key ring was there. Only the apartment key was missing. Monday morning, the apartment lobby smelled like floor polish and rain from wet shoes. The thing is, public rooms had always made me feel safer than private ones. 2 mailboxes left open, one concierge looking down too quickly, and of course I thought Tomasz had gone to work like any other day. Glenn, the concierge, stood behind the desk with the visitor log open. He did not greet me the way he usually did. His hand stayed on the page as if holding it flat mattered. Tomasz was near the mailboxes. Nina stood beside him, her coat buttoned wrong, her eyes on the floor. A woman I did not know stepped forward and asked if I was Amara Ellis. I said yes before I understood the shape of the morning. She handed me an envelope and asked me to sign. My fingers took the pen. I wrote my name too large on the tablet screen. Then I held the envelope against my coat while the lobby doors breathed cold air behind me. The document was a petition for dissolution of marriage with temporary orders. The first hearing date was June 18th. The temporary orders requested exclusive use of the apartment, preservation of joint accounts, and a record of household charges until the hearing. Attached to the declaration were stills from Marco's party clip, screenshots from Leah's group messages, and my own post about safe men not acting alive. No new evidence, no miracle. only the things I had said where people could save them. I told Tomasz this was insane because it had been one drunk joke. Glenn looked down at the visitor log. Nina said it had not been one joke. She said it quietly, like correcting a time on a receipt. Tomasz did not argue. He told Glenn he would collect the rest of his mail through the temporary arrangement. Then he walked out through the glass doors before I could make him stay inside my version. I called Raphael from the lobby. The call failed. A minute later, he wrote in the group chat that he had never encouraged anything serious and wanted to be kept out of a married couple's situation. Then his name disappeared from my messages. I moved into a short-term studio above a nail salon because the temporary order gave Tomasz exclusive use of the apartment until the hearing. Our joint account became restricted for household expenses, and every charge needed a clean note. Nina, Celeste, and Marco stopped inviting me to group nights, while Leah answered only clinic questions with polite little sentences. Raphael deleted every photo from Marco's party and told people he barely knew me. At the clinic, 2 nurses stopped talking when I entered the break room. I thought asking the room who wanted me proved I was not trapped. The thing is, Tomasz had been opening doors for me for years, and I called every open door a cage because he was not loud enough when he held it. I wanted public desire because private care had started to look like furniture. What I lost was the only person who knew where everything in the house belonged. The silver bottle opener stayed in the drawer. The last thing he left behind was the tool he used to open rooms for everyone else.